Candyman. Candyman.
Don't do it.
Candyman.
Okay, no.
Candyman.
Jordan. I mean, Tanner. Wait, Tanner. Is the neighborhood you live in gentrified?
Oh,
yes
no,
or no?
I'm safe.
All right, yeah, you're fine. Say it again.
Safe. Wait, is that?
Hi, welcome to the Bomb Squad podcast. I'm Tanner Richard Kraft.
I'm Austin Zwiebelman.
I'm Tim M. Sullivan.
And I'm Rein Conversi.
And today we have a very another special guest. We have Mr. Jordann Salvador.
That's me.
Having Jordan here is very cool because Jordan here worked on the movie we are talking about today, Candyman. Isn't that right, Jordan?
I did. I worked at it as a grip for like 5 days total, I think. I think the runtime of the movie was about 30-something days. So I worked like in a little bit of the movie, but yeah, I was there.
1/6 of the production.
5 days more than me.
That's true.
And from what I understand, you got to meet Jordan Peele, the producer of this movie. Elaborate on that.
I met Jordan Peele. Yeah, he came to set around the week I was there.
And what did you think about him? What did you think about him?
He was a great guy.
What was wrong in your head when you met him, Jordan?
Well, when I met him, before I had met him, when I told Rein that I was going to work on Candyman, he told me I should slap his ass for some reason. I didn't understand it at the time. No, hold on.
Okay.
But it's because of a Key and Peele skit called Slap Ass, and it's about the coach of a baseball team slapping ass or something. And Rein really wanted me to do this to Mr. Jordan Peele the first second I met him.
You could say slap ass, and then you'd be like, oh, I get it. It's a joke.
Yeah. I could have. But sadly, I didn't.
What's happened to my buddy Eric? Alrighty then. So we are going to be talking about the new movie, Candyman, a reboot, remake, sequel, I think mostly sequel type thing to the original Candyman. Before we get into our thoughts about the new Candyman movie, guys, I would like to explore our thoughts about the Candyman franchise in general. I guess more specifically the original movie, which is in my opinion the only other one worth talking about. I think in terms of thoughts on the previous movies, we'll start with Austin.
Oh. I never saw Candyman as like a young horror fan entirely because nobody on this green earth told me that it was associated with gay icon and legendary freak Clive Barker. Because I went out of my way to see Hellraiser and Midnight Meat Train. I really like Clive Barker. And when I was growing up, we didn't have Candyman as far as like a mirror ghost you could summon. We had Bloody Mary around these parts. In preparation for this podcast, I saw the old Candyman from '92 and some Blu-ray featurette mini documentary things. That film is the brainchild of one Bernard Rose, an Englishman. He chose to make The Forbidden, a short story from Clive Barker's Book of Blood, which was about like class in Liverpool into a story about race in Chicago. In spite of what Twitter told me, the old film is not like a super progressive landmark by today's standards, but as a product of the George H.W. Bush administration made by a British Jew, it has some socio-political stuff to enjoy. As a straight horror movie, though, it's quite gory. The score by Philip Glass and Tony Todd's performance are ethereal. In keeping with adaptations of Clive Barker's work, the protagonist suffers extra much. And the reason that Bernard Rose chose to set it in the city of Chicago was because of Chicago's architecture, which is displayed in the movie via some really A-plus helicopter shots. And there's some generic 90s crowd-pleasing stuff like a cheating boyfriend, boobs, a prison break. Overall, it's a solid time.
Alrighty then, I guess our next contestant is Rein.
All right. So I saw original Candyman in high school. I remember really liking it. I think it was very interesting, but I remember absolutely nothing about it. Other than that, the only aspect of the film I remember like at all that was seared into my head was the image of Tony Todd with like an exposed rib cage, which is like like a horde of bees like flying everywhere. That image stuck with me, and I'm sure it's interesting. I just but for whatever reason, I didn't remember any other aspect of it. So that is my very in-depth history with this franchise.
All right, Tim, what's your general history with the Candyman franchise?
So, kind of like Austin had said, I hadn't really watched it like as a younger horror fan. I actually watched it for the first time last year, and I watched it after I had checked out a documentary on Shudder called Horror Noir, which it's a documentary that talks about all these different horror movies and stuff created by black directors and starring black actors. And that's a really fascinating documentary. I definitely recommend checking it out. I've tried to watch a couple of the movies that they talked about on that. I still have a bunch I still need to watch, but it's definitely an interesting doc in as far as just like kind of showing the history of black creators in the horror genre. And so that made me interested in checking out Candyman. So I watched it. I think it was on Netflix last year. So I checked it out on there, and I remember enjoying it. And I actually just revisited it earlier today, just kind of to prepare for this. And once again, it's very enjoyable. And kind of like what Austin said, the gore is very raw. It's a very intense horror movie, and I definitely enjoyed it on that level for sure. Having watched it again after watching the remake, I think it was kind of interesting to see kind of where the inspiration for different things were kind of pulled when they were making the remake, just like with that context fresh in my head. So yeah, that's about it. I haven't watched any of the sequels, and I probably won't.
So, I guess this leaves Mr. Jordann Salvador. What's your history with the Candyman franchise, if any?
I didn't have much of a history with Candyman before I worked on it. It was a weird month of my life where Candyman just became like this huge part of it. It was like 2019, like September, I think it happened. I was working on a movie called All Gone Wrong in St. Louis, and that was starring Tony Todd. And everybody was talking about Candyman, talking about how he's the star of Candyman, Tony Todd. So I was working with him then, before I even knew anything about the new one shooting in Chicago. And then I eventually got the opportunity to work on the new one. And I figured, hey, this is like becoming a big part of my life. I should watch this movie. And I that's the one and only time I saw it. It was like 2 a.m. on Netflix or something. I don't remember it very well, but I do remember it being very intense and gory. Yeah, it was a good movie, about gentrification and all that. I guess Austin said it's like it doesn't hit it as well as I might have remembered it hitting it, but I don't know. Yeah, I remember enjoying it a lot. I'm not much of a horror guy too, so like when I really enjoy one, I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. It's a good movie. But yeah, good time. And like Candyman that month of my life was like all over the place. It was like, I don't know, calling me or something.
All right, very cool. Man, we've said the word so many times. We've probably summoned him like 5 times by now. Well, there's no mirrors nearby, so I guess we're fine. So in terms of me, I guess I'm
actually next to 2 giant mirrors.
Yeah, there's a mirror right there.
I got those.
Yeah. So if I die, you guys can see it.
Is that how that works? You can... Yeah, it is. Okay, never mind.
So my history with the Candyman franchise, I guess, is a bit more involved than the rest of y'all's. I first saw Candyman when I was 15 or 16 years old. It was actually one of the first horror movies I watched when I was going down this deeper exploration of the horror genre. Saw was my introduction to my love of the genre as a whole, as I talked about in the Spiral podcast. This movie, more specifically, was, one of the other ones that kind of helped introduce me to a more political type of horror in a way. And I love that original Candyman movie. It is one of my favorite horror movies. I always found Tony Todd's Candyman to be a uniquely terrifying figure. I'm not quite sure what it was about him, but he was always just extra terrifying to me. Maybe it's because... So here's a true story. I have never been stung by a bee before in my life. And because of that, I am deathly terrified of them. because what if I am allergic to them? You know, what if I'm allergic to bees and I just don't know it yet? What if I die because a bee stings me? So because of that, Candyman represents a lot of horror for me because, you know, he got them bees.
I don't know. Were you kidnapped as a baby?
I mean, not that I know of.
Okay.
I seem pretty well adjusted, I guess.
Wait, no. Have an in-depth conversation with your mom and find out if you were actually raised in the South Side of Chicago. We're born in the South Side of Chicago. You didn't realize it.
Mom, was I really born in the South Side of Chicago? What the hell are you talking about? You were born in Houston.
That's really, you know, South Side.
That's the southernmost side of Chicago. Chicago just stretches from Detroit all the way to El Paso. That's what Chicago is. But yeah, I've always been a big fan of the original Candyman, so I was pretty excited for this movie because I thought, man, maybe we'll get a good Candyman sequel, because Candyman 2 is a sometimes interesting movie, but mostly bad one. Though, fun fact, it was directed by Bill Condon, who would later go on to direct many movies, such as the live-action Beauty and the Beast remake, and also write The Greatest Showman. Weird career this guy's had. He's more of a music guy. I don't know why he worked on a horror movie. And the third one's just garbage tier. So I was pretty excited for this new one, hoping that it could be a better sequel to the original and live up to the expectations of the sequel. I guess this allows us to perfectly transition into what did we think about the new Candyman movie overall. We're going to start with Tim.
It was good. I watched it as a double feature with the movie The Night House. So just kind of get like a spooky double feature at Ronnie's the other night. I believe we'll be doing an audio only podcast of The Night House, so you get to hear our thoughts on both of those. But yeah, it was good. I recall early on kind of hearing that there was some sort of like negative preconceived notions about this one. And I can't remember for sure really how that started. So I was kind of going in with leveled expectations, but overall I did really enjoy it. I think it was really direct about the message it was kind of trying to tell with gentrification and the like struggling artist aspect of it. Which, by the way, when that art critic lady died, that was such a great moment. Just like, yeah. But yeah, overall it was good. It was a good follow-up. The kind of like twist where you find out that it is like a direct follow-up to the original was interesting as well. At the time, like my memory of the original was a little fuzzy, but like I obviously remembered like the kind of iconic ending of her emerging from the fire with the baby. So when they kind of started telling about that story, I was like, oh, it's connected. So that was cool. Yeah, good movie.
Hell yeah. You know, it's funny that you bring up not knowing about it's kind of a follow-up to the original, because before I saw the movie, I went to the Wikipedia page for it because I was trying to see, oh, what's the name of that actor from who plays the lead role? He was in Watchmen. What was his name? So I go to Wikipedia page and I scroll down and I just see, you know, actor's name as Anthony / Candyman. And I just kind of went, what the well, why you gotta tell me that?
That sucks.
And then it explicitly says right after that, this character is the same as the baby from the first movie. And I was just dead ass like, what the hell? What the Wikipedia? I just wanted to know who's in the damn movie.
That's why you go to IMDb.
Quit victim blaming, Tim. So, you know, colored my expectations a little, but still ultimately lived up to it. I'll get into that more later, because next we're going to ask Rein what he thought about this new one overall.
Oh man, I still don't know for sure. I do know, so I guess I'll too long didn't read version of my thoughts are. It's a generally pretty stylish, fun horror movie that has a lot of extra value for, you know, trying to actually take time to tell something and say something about our world. I think I mostly like its execution in that respect. I need to see it again before I can say anything concrete. Although I will say, I feel like I had throughout was, up until like the end, I thought that maybe to get into something that we get into later, it's very obvious that Candyman was supposed to represent like Black American trauma and whatnot, like, and just like the generations of it accumulated over time. And I just thought it was very interesting that at first, like with all the like kills the mayhem that was going on, because the story of him it was attempted to be snuffed out, but now it's on the rise again, or now it's being spread around again. And at first I was like, because his history being talked about was causing death and destruction, I thought the movie was almost saying like us talking about like black trauma and whatnot, it causes death and destruction. And at the end, when it becomes obvious, no, it's like death and destruction against oppressors and against gentrifiers and stuff. I think it does come together better that way. But I still, I don't know, there's I guess a little bit of disappointment. And again, I should see this again before I say anything concrete. And I could definitely see being wrong on this front. But I felt like it was too much. Like it would have been interesting if it would have been from more like, if it would have treated it in a more systemic way, the problems with gentrification and how the country treats black people. So I'm just like a giant wave of just like, oh, blah, blah, like heavy stuff. Instead of, oh man, look at that bloodshot.
Bloodshot?
Anyway.
What is this, a creepypasta? Hyper-realistic bloodshot eyes. Sonic came out of the TV and killed Candyman.
But for example, an interesting moment early on when the main character is talking to his like, I guess like the art guy who like funds his work, like his boss kind of in a way, that one guy, when he's like talking about like what he's trying to do as an artist. He's talking about how he's wanting to tackle white supremacy, and then the art critics guy's his response to that, oh, you want to talk about, oh yeah, you mean white people. When he means white supremacy, I assume, oh, you meant like the system of white supremacy that is causing all this, whereas he took in just a more just a bad apple sort of way, like, oh, those stupid white people. And then in the movie, I don't know if it really, I thought like that was going to tell me, oh, they're going to view it in a more systemic way. And to be honest, all this might just be because it's like, I feel like it's just very, very hard to do a, just to like to make a cathartic story about tackling systemic issues instead of just like individual people, because of having the villains. I mean, because as a metaphor, just like we're going to kill each and every, I guess, like individual who participates in a moral system. I feel like that's not. I feel like it would have been more ideal if it would have been about actually tackling the system itself instead of the participants of it. But that being said, man, that final scene was super. That was one of the most cathartic moments I think I've had in a long time watching a movie. So conflicting feeling, but overall good fun time. And also, man, the lead guy, he is so like likable and charismatic. He should be in just like like most movies. I feel
he's
like
in a lot of movies.
Well, he's not in enough.
Yeah.
Rain, you watch like 12 movies a year. Your opinion doesn't count.
That's true.
I'm not much better.
Oh wait, no. There is one more thing. My enjoyment factor was pretty high, and then every time we had to look at that hand, it just shot down. Like every time to see is like disgusting, grotesque. Then when it went away, oh, it's good again. That's so disgusting. But I just needed to bring that disgustingness up.
Rain doesn't like body horror, confirmed.
I don't mind horrifying things. I just hate gross stuff.
It's pretty gross.
I'm gonna get on a flight to LA, and I'm gonna with your hand, and then you're gonna wake up, and you're gonna be like, not again.
I do think it's interesting that, so like on the face of it, all the victims that are killed are people that could be like all the kills are like non-black people who aren't helping, who can be like, I guess, construed as perpetrators of the problems we're living in. What I'm trying to say is, it's very weird that the main character, like, that he's a victim of this too. I don't know. In a way, the movie does feel like it's trying to like paint Candyman as like this avenging hero for black people, especially framed that way in the climax, I feel like. So I just think it's, weird that this guy's whole life was just set up to just be misery, basically, or just end in misery.
You dead ass said Missouri instead of misery the first time. I heard that. Clear as day. I know I heard that.
Oh man. I saw the way you're looking at me. It's like, man, I must have said something really racist. Oh well.
I mean, that's just every word that comes out of your mouth, Rain.
It's true.
All right. So, Austin, what did you think of the movie overall?
Let me start out by saying that this was more of a fun ride from Monkey's Paw than I had with Us, because when the Candyman, the first trailer, that funky trailer came out, my expectations were just like rock bottom. And then the theatrical experience was really fun, whereas with Us, it was like the inverse. It's cool that they chose to do the Halloween 2018 sequel that retcons all the other sequels maneuver. the two Candyman sequels that came after 1992 were trying to repeat the original success while missing critical elements. Like, Nia DaCosta is so much like Bernard Rose. They're both directors that when they approached Candyman, they had absolutely knocked another film out of the park. Like, Nia did this film called Little Woods, and Bernard Rose did this film called Paper House. So they'd already like made these home run sort of awesome films. And they were intelligent directors that had like an idea of how to elevate the story. It delighted me that Candyman's characters worked in the fine art industry, like mixing the weird upper class characters with the day-to-day horrors of people who endure poverty sort of makes like smart horror that can comment on itself inside the text. Not to mention the freedom that allowed art department. Really solid decision there. That $25 million budget gave us some cool moments. Like, the body horror thing kind of reminded me of The Fly, the progression of his hand, the progression of that lead actor into being a beehive.
The bee.
It was interesting because they showed a lot of like the body horror stuff like really close up, whereas a lot of the Candyman's kills were depicted mostly with sound design. It's strange. You get this off-screen and on-screen sort of violence. Watching a black woman get saved from nefarious cops, like by a vengeful black ghost, was a really good crowd-pleasing 2020s film moment. Nia DaCosta, of her own admission, does a lot of research for each film, and she takes a lot of inspiration from like literature and paintings. And it shows because Anya Stanley in AV Club, she wrote this review that this film almost has too many ideas packed into the little runtime. It tackles stuff like sort of gentrification, methods of discrimination by decades, sensationalism in the media and art. I thought that it was a smart horror movie, and it elevates the original into modern relevance.
Hell yeah. All right. Mr. Jordann Salvador. What are your thoughts on the movie overall?
Well, like you, Tanner, I knew all those plot elements before I went into it.
I'm not alone.
Not because of Wikipedia, but because I was reading the script on my downtime on set. It was the Best Boy Electric script, and I would read it on my downtime. Yeah, so I knew pretty much the whole plot coming in. And it actually surprised me watching it, even after knowing what's going to happen. It was like the execution of it really sold the script for me, I think. I don't think... am I allowed to talk about that I read the script? I don't know. But the script didn't sell me too much. It was like, on paper, it seemed like a very basic horror movie. It was just events happening throughout. And I think Nia DaCosta and the execution overall really sold it. The cinematography, everything in between. Like you guys talked about the hand, the gore. The kills were amazing. I loved the kills in this movie. I thought they were great. Yeah, but overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I'm kind of biased because it's like my first big motion picture I worked on. And it was just a good experience being there, and it was a good experience watching it. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the political aspects of the movie. Yeah, I guess we could say that they could have tackled it more, but it's hard to do in an hour and a half while also trying to scare the audience. Like, it's just a hard thing to do. That's not an excuse in any way, but yeah, I thought it did it pretty well. My favorite part is how they made throughout the movie. They made the cops like almost more scary than Candyman in some points. Like the shadows at the ending scene.
Yeah,
that was terrifying. Yeah. So I enjoyed it a lot, and it was a good time.
Hell yeah! All right. So I loved the movie. It was very satisfying finally seeing a good Candyman sequel, remake, reboot, sequel, whatever the this is. Halloween 2018ification. H2O did it first, I think. Anyway, obviously I knew aspects of the plot going in, which was disappointing, but I've always been a firm believer in, yeah, that sucks, but if the moment should have still worked. Otherwise, like, what's the point of rewatching movies? The moments and the execution of them should work regardless of spoilers, even if I prefer to be kind of blind going in. Yeah. Because, the surprises are part of the fun, but it's whatever. The execution, I thought, was really strong. Oh, there was definitely a lot of scary moments in a lot of aspects to it. I thought all the acting performances were incredible. The character work was really solid. And in terms of just being scary, it definitely builds a really nice, terrifying type of atmosphere. And never before has the word, just saying a word into a mirror been so terrifying since the original Candyman. Honestly, there's a lot to like about this movie. Oddly enough, I kind of have an opposite experience of what Rein had, in which he wasn't sold on it until the ending. I was loving this the whole way through. I thought this might be my favorite movie of the year. Holy shit, what's going on? And then literally like the last 2 minutes happened. I'm not even kidding. The last 2 minutes of the movie like suddenly took me out of everything, and maybe go, oh wait, what? Because for a couple of reasons. One,
hey, Tanner, your camera's messed up. We can the Blue Lives Matter flag on your wall. It's like we can hardly even see it. So.
Yeah, hold on. Let me put it. Let me move it down.
Yeah,
revealing a Confederate flag behind it or something. I don't know. Whatever a good joke is. Why don't they put the Blue Lives Matter stripe on a Confederate flag? Why haven't I seen that? Seems like there'd be a good demo for that, right?
Well, they don't want to defame that flag, dude. Like what?
God, I'd be so good at selling conservative people merch. Holy shit. Back to the movie. The last 2 minutes, I didn't quite. It definitely tied in with the ultimate themes of the movie, but for me, I couldn't quite get the catharsis out of it because I'm not this type of guy, right? I love the Marvel movies. I am not bothered by CG. However, when I finally got to see Tony Todd and he came out looking like a damn cartoon character, I was kind of upset. Why did they need to DH him? What was the point of that? What did it add? I genuinely do not understand that as an artistic decision. It felt kind of pointless, and it really took me out of what should have been a very awesome moment. Not to mention, I was honestly expecting Tony Todd to be in the movie more, as like the Candyman that the main character would see in the reflections and everything. So at dead ass, the opening scene happens, and that guy climbs out of the wall. I don't remember that actor's name, but that guy that was offering candy to the kids, he came out of the wall. And he was a pretty pretty scary figure. When that moment was happening, I expected the figure to come out of the wall to be Tony Todd. So he comes out of the wall, and I'm like, oh, here he comes. And then you see him, and I'm like, that's not Tony Todd. That's not Tony Todd. What the hell? And then the movie kept going, and that character kept showing up in the reflections. I started to gaslight myself into thinking I don't remember what Tony Todd looks like. I was just like, do I not remember what Tony Todd? Am I racist? What's going on? And then the cartoon Tony Todd showed up, and I went, okay, thank God, it was just a different person. I'm not an idiot. Okay. But even beyond that, I thought the third act in general felt really rushed. I felt like there was more movie left, and then next thing I know, that guy from the projects is sawing his arm off, and then we see the half of his body with all the little holes on it, and I'm like 85% sure I actually peed my pants a little bit when I saw that because of how gross and scary it was. I really loved the body horror aspects of it. When Rein was talking about that hand thing, that's terrifying, that's creepy, I hate it, and I love it. I love to hate it sort of thing. I thought it was a really scary movie. I thought it really made good use of building on the socio-political themes of the original Candyman and adding onto it and building on top of it and adding to that legacy. It feels like a distinct stamp of Candyman while also feeling like a true continuation of it. I really enjoyed the movie. It's like my third favorite horror movie of the year so far. Yeah, it's great. So, these next two questions will probably be kind of quick because I feel like this first one has a semi-obvious answer. But this next question is, what do you think Candyman represents? This was Austin's idea for a question because I'm not usually this smart. So,
the smart.
I'm not smart enough to ask, what do you think of the themes? I usually like to ask, what do you think with the booba? Or something like some stupid question like that, So, what do you guys think Candyman is like a metaphor for? What does it represent? We'll start with Rein.
I mean, I basically already went to that whole thing. I'll ask him. Let me just call his name. I don't know.
Looks at the mirror. Candyman. All right, come on. Tell me, what do you represent?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. Just if you're curious what I have to say, viewer, just rewind to earlier when I was talking about what I thought.
All right, we're gonna keep everyone on their toes here. Jordan, what do you think? Hold on, I f***ed up. Hold on, I said it wrong. I mean, Mr. Jordann Salvador. What do you think the Candyman represents?
Well, I think we covered it a lot with what we thought of the movie.
Yeah, we did.
I think he represents black trauma. I mean, definitely in this movie, for sure. I don't know about the original. I don't remember anything about the movie now that I think about it. I remember the recap that they gave us at the beginning of the movie. That's what I remember. But it obviously represents black trauma. I guess what that can it can ruin someone's life and go through generations of ruining people's life. I think that telling the story of Candyman is just generations of the black community have suffered because of history, U.S. being racist, and all the systemic problems we have in this country. And it isn't like what Rein was saying earlier. I don't know if it necessarily represents that we should forget about it. I don't think that that's the case.
It definitely doesn't feel like that. It's just for a lot of the movie, I don't know. I already said my 2 cents.
I don't think it's saying that, but it's definitely not saying that it's it's not an easy thing to talk about, and it's traumatic no matter what. You know what I mean? It's not.
I think the main thing might be these people are dying because they're treating something with such gravity, as a game, as a joke. They're being very disrespectful to the memory of this man who was beaten to death, just on the surface, without even getting to all the other people who were also murdered because of this system and whatnot.
The Rein just said some galaxy brain. Holy shit. I feel like I just unlocked a new chakra and I'm ascending into a new level of enlightenment. I feel like I'm about to meet Buddha or something. Holy shit. I shouldn't say that. Is that offensive?
No.
Did I just offend Tibet again?
No.
not this week.
Not today.
Jordan, I want to point out the fact you said that you think you don't remember the original Candyman. Well, that reminds me of a very funny thing that I was constantly reading in the Reddit discussion threads for this movie. I don't know why I did that. Black Panther was a mess. This was obviously going to be a goddamn mess too, but there was a lot of people being like, I don't know why they had to put politics in Candyman. Why couldn't they just make a badass horror movie like the first one? I'm reading this and I'm like, what the do you think the first Candyman is about? What the hell do you think it's about?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know. People do that with everything though.
Keep your politics out of my Star Wars.
Yeah, what? The Nazis, dude. What are you talking about?
me walking into Saving Private Ryan. Damn it, they had to make it political.
Because I don't remember the events of the movie, but I do remember thinking even my reactionary 16-year-old self would be oh yeah, this is clearly about horrors of the black experience and XYZ, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If I could, then you don't have any excuse for just being dumb about the original movies.
Tim, what do you think the Candyman represents?
I guess I'm just kind of adding on to what they said, but I think that one of the strengths of this movie was it really hammered on that aspect of the gentrification stuff. In the first one, we're following these 2 college students who are trying to do their thesis on Candyman. So they go into the projects of Cabrini Green and they're being introduced to this environment that is totally different from what they're used to. And with this one, it's really talking a lot about how those environments are being manipulated by the people in control. And it really kind of paints the Candyman as just a victim of an environment. And that's the best thing that I can add to that. They've pretty much covered it.
I do think it's interesting how the 2 main characters of the movie, the couple, they're showed as being pretty darn well off, pretty wealthy. And even though from the flashbacks of the girlfriend character and what we know about the main guy character, we know that what I'm trying to say is that it would have been interesting if there would have been some sort of show more of an intersection between race and class. I thought that was potentially a missed opportunity, but at the same time, it's an hour and a half. I don't know. It's just that it's something that's there. And I'm very curious to see if there is more to it. Because the feeling I got is when I saw it earlier, I was like, oh, they're probably going to be something to do with this. And then it didn't really ever come up, at least as far as I can tell. It's just another aspect of the movie that sprouted in my head. And I was like, I should bring it up.
Society. All right, Austin. What do you think the Candyman represents? I feel like there's nothing left to say.
I can just try. If you want to see Nia DaCosta do a film about class, check out Little Woods. It's all about just this crazy situation that could only happen to poor people in like the boonies of America. It's really, really good movie. Old Candyman was a tortured ghost who wanted his girlfriend back so she could be Freddy Krueger with him. New Candyman, like Candyman is used as a vehicle to keep alive these stories of black people who were, experienced all these hardships in America. But what I was really curious about was, as a freaky horror thing that happens when you chant in the mirror, what is Candyman in this? Candyman is like a language virus that disembowels people who don't respect the legend and can be wielded, weirdly enough, by either party depending on how they establish the myth. Like, for a while, Candyman was harmfully employed in killing lots of poor black people because he was this, like, scary story that police invented to cover up a murder where they murdered the wrong dude. And then at the end of this movie, sort of the table is flipped around because instead of this like old cover-up story, now it's about this police shooting where also all the cops died and this mysterious piece of modern art by a black dude. Like, there's this whole new way that the thing gets spread around and different people who are gonna say it because of how the story gets employed at the end of the movie. Like, you're gonna get a different crowd of people who think like, Candyman ate and I heard how this happened. I'm gonna go say Candyman in the mirror. And it's not just gonna be the residents of Cabrini Green for once. So the laundry guy can be happy now.
That reminds me of something I kind of wanted to say. I thought it was kind of funny seeing like the memes that are going around and just like people going like, Candyman is just the most reasonable horror villain. All you just have to do is leave him alone. Just keep his name out your mouth. Yeah. I think that's a good point. Like, he's literally just trying to vibe, and people are bringing him into their problems. And
don't add him.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what everyone said so far. I think the only interesting thing I have to add personally is the use of the say his name as the name of the art exhibit that Anthony is making. Say his name, say their name, say her name. That has often been a rallying cry for, Black Lives Matter and these sort of anti-police, anti-state protests against state violence. That has been really a rallying cry against it, is say her name, say their name. And I think it was pretty, it really helps tie into the generational trauma and the idea of Candyman as his avenging force with that say his name bit. Really the only interesting thing I have to say. I'm pretty stupid. I only get smart when we're talking about Ryan Reynolds comedies for some reason. That's the only time I get to be smart.
Why do we have to have critical thinking questions on these podcasts?
I just want to say cool movie. All right, really quickly, guys. I want this to be kind of rapid fire. What do you guys think was the most frightening moment of the film for you? We'll start with Mr. Jordann Salvador.
Oh, I'm not ready for these questions. Most frightening. I think it had to be when he was like all around all these like these paintings that he just like created overnight. They were all like sort of decaying, and like he was just like surrounded with like death. It seemed like I think that scene really stood out to me, where like all his like freaky paintings that I don't know. Yeah. I don't think the kills were necessarily like frightening to me, but like those paintings like really stood out to me as being like horrific.
Austin, most frightening moment for you, go.
Loved that Francis Bacon looking in the paintings. That bit in the elevator with the sound design was the most my heart rate accelerated in the movie. If that went on much longer, I might have but my favorite like horror moment was when it's doing that zoom on the critic's apartment and what happens there. That is a good enough reason to go see this on either a really big screen like a theater, or if you own one at home, watch this movie, get a Blu-ray, because that was kind of cool. I like that.
The elevator scene was also very good. Sorry,
yes.
I forgot about that. I love that scene.
Yeah.
I was going to say that apartment scene because not only is that a great moment with the zoom out, it shows all these other white people just going about their lives as this great violent moment happens. When Candyman smears the critic across the window and that blood smear happens, it is a direct parallel to the first brush stroke Anthony makes. If you compare them side by side, it is the exact same movement.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Rein, most frightening moment, go.
All right, so yeah, I was definitely thinking about that. The elevator moment and the apartment scene. Those were both ones I was thinking about a lot, and But then I just thought, no, I know what the one that like just unnerved me the most was at the beginning, the scene where the one guy in the 70s pops out who has the hook hand and the candy when he comes out of that hole. Like that was just so like unnerving. Like, you know, just like the way the actor's like just that creepy unnerving smile he had.
It's interesting you bring up that opening moment because fun fact, that actor mostly does stage acting. This is only like his fourth or fifth credit on IMDb. So I think that's a big reason why there's a lot of physicality in his performance is because he comes from the stage. Oh, Tim, most frightening moment for you. Okay. Go.
So, as a consumer of horror, I normally consume it as just like sort of a like cathartic or artistic experience. I don't usually think too much about what's a frightening moment. I guess a horror moment that really jumped out at me was the girls' bathroom in the high school where the like 5 girls say his name 5 times and the one girl just walks into the stall and you just like hear all of the killing happening and don't see it, but then you just like see blood and people just like underneath the stall. Like that's one of those great like classic horror moments where like you don't get to see it, you get to imagine the horror that's happening. And I thought that was really cool. That was just a moment that kind of jumped out at me. And yeah, all the moments that have been mentioned, all also great.
What do you think that school scene was for in the movie?
I've heard rumors that was originally supposed to be the opening scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think that would have worked as well, but...
The original has a cold open, too. It's like a structural parallel. It opens with some white people getting killed by Candyman. But in the final cut, I can't answer your question. I don't know.
It just kind of stood out to me as like, why was that there? It was cool, but yeah.
Who knows? Maybe there was something intentional there with it being, you know, the white girls bullying that black girl, and then the white girls are the one invoking the name, and then maybe it's anti-vaping because maybe that one girl gets killed because she says, "Hold on, I forgot my vape." This is actually an anti-vape movie.
This is the longest truth ad I've ever seen.
Austin, Candyman's after you next.
Austin pulled out his vape. Hide it.
Just throws it out the window. Like, hey, it's not mine. I'm holding it for a friend.
It's up my ass now.
It's in my pocket.
All right.
Before we move on to our little trivia section, I just have a very special question for Mr. Jordann Salvador.
What's up?
Do you have any other type of fun on-set stories you would like to share with the class?
I have it's not necessarily a story, but a really cool fact actually. When we're shooting in the church, you know, the church that's near the end, and he goes there to take he goes there to take photos early on. That place was actually like surrounded by bees. There was bees everywhere when we were shooting there. It was like really weird, and like I'm like, what is this?
Wow.
Yeah, there's bees flying around all over the place there. Which is
That's
really
actually
cool.
really cool you mentioned that, because the last section of the podcast is for the first time in like, I don't know, 6 weeks. Tannis Trivia Corner! The first piece of trivia I was going to bring up is that according to IMDb, the crew actually encountered a bee infestation during filming. So we have a primary source for the IMDb trivia. We have a primary source. This is a scoop.
It's 100% true that there was a bunch of bees there.
This is just like when I broke the fact that there was a butthole cut of cats a month before any other news outlet broke it, because I knew someone who worked on cats. So really? I knew about the existence of a butthole cut.
That's awesome.
Cutting edge journalism from Tanner Craft.
That's cool. That's cool that trivia came up. Like, yeah, that was a surreal moment for sure.
For the rest of the trivia, production was brought back to the Greeny Green neighborhood where the original Candyman was filmed. Most of the high-rise building has been demolished because of gentrification. But, you know, the row houses still existed, so it's kind of funny that the production of this movie was indirectly affected by the type of things it's critiquing. Lakeith Stanfield was originally considered for the role of Anthony McCoy, but he turned it down in favor of doing Judas and the Black Messiah, which any true bomb squatters will know is still our least watched and listened to podcast.
You can hear Tanner eating breakfast on it.
It's good. Go watch it.
I'll go watch it. I want to go watch it now.
That is the most based we've ever been on a podcast. Austin and I don't hold back.
Oh, great. Now I'm definitely going to listen to it.
The opening credits of the original Candyman featured moving footage of Chicago filmed from above. This one, from below. Thought that was a pretty cool parallel. The opening logos of the movie are reversed intentionally to have a mirror-like effect. I deadass thought that, like, there was something wrong with my projection until the ending credits.
Yeah.
Because then the ending credits happened and those look correct. I was like, okay, they did that on purpose.
So when you were seeing the titles of the art exhibits, you didn't realize...
Listen, I'm really stupid. During its second day of release, the film actually dethroned Free Guy, another podcast we talked about, to be the top of the box office, which made Nia DaCosta the first black female director to have a movie in the #1 at the box office. My reaction to that is, holy shit, it's taken way too long.
Yeah.
The film reuses the same Foley sound of a baby crying that the original does. Virginia Madsen, who plays Helen Lyle from the original Candyman movie, has a small role in this movie, and a very small voice role when she's reading the tapes. Oh. Fun fact, Helen was originally intended to have a larger role in the film, but this concept was shelved. Not before we actually saw footage in the trailer showing Helen as a ghost. I'm pretty sure the first Candyman trailer they released, if you look around somewhere, there's a shot in there of what clearly looks like Helen as a ghost that's not in the movie at all. And I saved this piece of trivia for last because I just thought it was hilariously ironic. This is the first Candyman movie to have a black protagonist.
Mother.
Something so terrible and hilarious about that.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. So, now that we're through all this trivia, do we have any departing final thoughts on this movie overall? We'll start with Austin.
This was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I'm excited for this director's future movies and maybe more good Candyman sequels. Totally exceeded my expectations.
Hell yeah. Tim, any departing thoughts?
Yeah, basically echoing Austin. It was a lot better than I expected. Nia DaCosta knocked it out of the park. I'm excited to see what she does in the future. And yeah, go watch the new Candyman.
Rein, do you have any departing thoughts?
I do, actually. Despite all my talking, might have sounded like whining for all I know, I did really enjoy this movie. And one more thing I just wanted to bring up that I touched on but didn't really get time to was like this. I really liked the look of this movie, especially the transitions with the sky, buildings looking in the sky. That just looks cool, even without any context. It just looks cool. And then also the really like the use of the like shadow puppets for the exposition dumps. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and like Tim saying, I'm really excited to see more from this director.
Alrighty then. Jordan, do you have any departing thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, I like this movie a lot, and this movie, like I said before, opened so many doors for me. I'm living in Chicago now because I worked on this movie. I've worked on a lot of cool stuff because I worked on this movie. So, yeah, I mean, I guess if anybody from the Candyman crew is listening, thank you for the opportunity.
I can't believe Jordan gentrified Chicago because of this movie.
That's
That's what he said. That is what he said.
Jordan just runs out of the room. We need to move. I really, really love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I think I have it 15th, 16th on my list, which may sound low, but again, I've seen 49, so that's in the upper tier. I really love the movie. The cinematography of this movie is just absolutely gorgeous. Every shot is incredible. I love the look of the movie. The ending felt a little rushed, and I hate that Tony Todd was a damn cartoon character. Don't think I'm going to be able to get over that. But yeah, it's a great, great movie. Had a great, great time with it. And yeah. So,
if you want to have a great time,
he's got to do it.
Rein, you're trying to steal my thunder, Rein?
No, I'm trying to. You were.
You're trying to steal my thunder. You're trying to steal my thunder.
You were being so incompetent. I had to help you. I had to help, like, guide you.
Thank you for listening to this podcast.
Hey, Rein.
Yes.
Candyman. Oh,
I
I
did.
pooped my pants. Thank you for watching this podcast. If you are listening to this podcast on the audio platforms you're on, thank you very much for listening. Please make sure you leave a review below because it helps boost us in the algorithm. If you are watching this podcast, thank you oh so very much for watching. And comment below to let us know, what do you think of the movie Candyman, the original or the new one? What do you think Candyman represents? And also, while you're down there commenting below, I want you to say, hey, Tanner, why didn't you ask Jordan to plug anything before you did the outro? Jordan, do you have anything you want to plug?
I guess you can follow me on Instagram. Sure.
What's your
I
ad?
don't know. Jordan.Salvador. Jordan with 2
You
N's.
heard it here, folks. Oh, I interrupted you.
So while you're down there commenting, asking for Jordan's Instagram handle, go ahead and hit that like button so we can know how much you like us. Hit the subscribe button so we can know how much you love us. And hit the bell icon so you can know exactly when we upload new videos. Thank you oh so very much for watching, guys. And I will see y'all next time.
Bye.
I slid my ticket across the table and I said, sorry guys, I gotta see about a girl.